With Tom Homan in the state, have you met with him? Would you?
Yes, I would. I haven't met with him yet. I think the governor has. Haven't had time to debrief with the governor, and I'm more than happy to meet with Mr. Homan to talk about the critical issues here in Minnesota.
Understood. When you look at DHS, do you have a view of whether they are at all collaborative with you? Should they be worried about the state potentially taking any of these officials to court, agents, whether that's civilly or criminally?
Well, we're already in litigation with them, and but that's not unusual for us to talk about things that are subject to litigation. I mean, right now we're suing Kristi Noem because of what I believe is a unconstitutional, illegal surge in the form of Operation Metro Surge, going from what is basically somewhere around 100 ICE agents to cover a 5-state area to somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 to cover only Minnesota, and the coercive nature of this. And that's a lawsuit we're in with them right now. But I still think that should not preclude us talking. You know, we're open to the dialogue.
Let me show you what the president said when asked about whether this federal agent killing of Alex Freddie was justified.
Was justified?
Well, you know, we're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself.
Well, what we did last Saturday night is we went to court and asked the judge for a temporary restraining order to preserve, protect, and to prohibit the federal government from destroying or altering evidence. We got that temporary restraining order, and we were in court yesterday at 2 p.m. to argue that motion, and and the court still has that under advisement.
And just to jump in, is your view that that's like a jump ball, or the feds are breaking the law?
Clearly, I think the feds are breaking the law. But let me tell you, so I'm glad to hear the president say what he just said, because on the first homicide, Renee Good, we were told that the state investigators had no role and could play no part in the investigation. You saw the president, vice president, and Kristi Noem exonerate Jonathan Ross and blame her for domestic terrorism. And then we saw the Todd Blanche at DOJ, number 2, say that there was no investigation that DOJ Civil Rights was going to do. And then 10 assistant U.S. attorneys quit because they were doing no investigation in Renee Good's case. So then there's another shooting of a man in North Minneapolis who survived. And then this happens with Mr. Preddy. So we didn't waste any time. We went straight to court to preserve evidence. We're not going to have faith in the system twice and be turned away and then not act on the third time. So now that the president is saying, okay, an investigation, I'm like, good. Do a joint investigation on all 3 of these cases and others that may be there.
And with regard to what your office knows, do you know the names of the agents who killed Mr. Preddy? Do you know where they are?
You know, at this point, Ari, I don't have reliable enough information to repeat on television.
And I understand that, and you have a job to do. There are reports that at least one of the key agents was already removed from Minneapolis. Is there veracity to that, and is that concerning?
That is what I heard. I don't have independent verification of it, and it is deeply concerning. I mean, here's the thing. Mr. Preddy was shot multiple times. Your listeners can sit and count the number of gunshots they hear, somewhere between 10 and 12. And there's every reason to believe that more than one person did that. And so anybody leaving the scene is deeply suspicious, feels like a cover up. And leaving a scene can be used in cases as consciousness of guilt. And so that's an interesting thing to maintain, to sort of make yourself unavailable if you are a professional law enforcement professional who needs to use deadly force in the course of your job. I would think that you'd say, this is my name, this is my badge number, I'm here to account for my behavior because I believe I was within the law and within my training.
Do you
that
have
is
reason
not
to
what we're
believe,
seeing.
you have reason to believe that the Trump administration, at whatever level, is trying to remove him from the state so that he's not in your jurisdiction?
I can only come to that conclusion. They can prove otherwise by bringing him back to the jurisdiction. I mean, like, I've used the word cover up, and then I've offered, well, if I'm wrong, let the Trump administration come forward and disclose the information that they have been not sharing. At this point, in the Renee Good case, they have retained custody of the bullet casings, the gun, and the car, and have deprived us from it and other information as well. If they're not covering up, fine, come on with it. Let's see it. And I'm not blaming the local officials. I'm blaming the people in Washington.
But then at what point do you have to move beyond the norms? I mean, the norms are the Fed's lead. Go. You have an answer? Go ahead.
Well, my answer is that we have to do the best we can with what we have, and I can assure everybody listening to you that we are. We're not going to say because the Feds have taken these actions that they haven't taken that there's nothing we can do. No, there's plenty we can do. Hennepin County Attorney's Office, who we are partnering with on this, Mary Moriarty has been a great partner. She's opened up a portal to receive evidence. My office at the Attorney General's has done the same.
Is there a scenario where your state, you're talking about a portal, your state takes this evidence and prepares civil or criminal cases against any agent who is culpable, and the Feds say, well, you can't deal with it, and you're saying, well, no, you've completely fallen down on the job, and at least let a judge decide if a state can do that, because as you and I know, typically states defer to the Feds.
Well, let me tell you, Ari, there is no barrier for a state prosecutor, which includes me and Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, from making a charging decision or bringing a case before the grand jury, as long as it's supported by probable cause. And there are many cases that have been brought forward that are not perfect, where you don't have the gun, you don't have some piece of evidence that you really would want to have, but there is no exemption for federal officers. Nobody gets to commit a crime in Minnesota and be unaccountable for it.
So let me ask it. And so I understand what you're saying. Let me ask it in plain English. If there is a person acting under federal powers in Minnesota, and they think, based on what has looked like a public set of lies and cover-up, and what the president has been saying, they think there's no chance, no matter what they do, including shooting someone to death, there's no chance that they could be locally charged. What do you say to that person who's going out on duty tomorrow?
I say they're absolutely wrong. And there have been many examples where federal officials have been charged by state prosecutors for committing crimes. I say, I really do believe that the vice president and other leaders who said absolute immunity are truly misserving ICE and Border Patrol agents, because there is no absolute immunity, friends. You have to obey the law, and you can be held accountable.
And now I'm going to get, into the law school part, which is no fun. When you bring a case like that, isn't the first thing the Feds do try to remove it to federal court and say they should handle it, not you?
No, removal to federal court is not excluding state prosecutors. It just means we're going to go to the federal courthouse as opposed to the state one. I mean, in Minnesota, that's 2 blocks.